Well, hello friends, Pastor Jenny here with my recap/review of The Handmaid's Tale Season 3, Episode 9. I never look at the screen directly because I do this while I'm driving. I am one of those modern day moms that has two children and works at the same time, so my apologies. And for those of you that are freaking out, do not freak out because I never take my eyes off the road, so I promise you that I am safe. But I digress. Let's review the episode 9 of Handmaid's Tale, season 3, titled Heroic. And most of the episode takes place in the hospital at the feet of the bed of Matthew, Natalie, who we thought at the end of last week's episode had died on the spot. Well, she didn't die. They managed to revive her and to keep her breathing through equipment long enough for her to have a viable baby. One of the things that we noticed throughout the whole episode is that there is a very little regard to the fact that Natalie is laying there. She truly is, as June puts it at some point in the episode, a vessel, just staying alive so that the wonderful miracle of a baby can be brought forward. The episode starts with June on her knees, and she tells us that she has been there for 32 days. It is obvious as you observe June that what we have been watching in the prior episodes of her really losing it and losing a sense of self has now progressed because she is forced to be on her knees most of the day. And now for 32 days, she has not seen the light of day. She has been at the feet of that bed. And when she asked Aunt Lydia if she can go home, which I'm sure she's asked quite a bit in the last 32 days, all she's told is that she needs to stay until her partner, her walking partner, leaves. So here we see that partners are not good only for spying on each other, but also for being with us when tragedy strikes. Only the tragedy, that stroke, is this girl was gunned down by a guardian who could have easily shot her on the leg or on the arm, but who went for her head. Life is not regarded as valuable in Gilead unless it's the life of the elite or unless it's the life of a baby. And so June gets told that she has to stay there for as long as Matthew is there or Natalie is there. And we see a procession of handmaids coming in and out. June makes reference of what they smell like. The wives smell like a powder, and June is reminded of the smell of Serena when she held her down, letting us into June's heart and mind and psyche, and how all the rape she was brutally subject to is still very much alive in her head. There's a lot of sadness and there's a lot of hopelessness in June. The handmaids come in and out also, and June references the smell of pus and bandage from Janine, who has had to be in the hospital and go through several procedures to take care of the injuries that of Matthew's attack on her left right before she was shot. The handmaids get to come and go. June gets to be there most of the day on her knees. At nights, she gets the privilege of actually laying on a bed that's right next to of Matthew. June is observing everything around her, and we can tell that she is growing increasingly desperate, despondent, apathetic. She really has lost all hope at this point. And at some point she notices that there is this blades that when the doctors cut or do something, they cut of Matthews to establish kind of like a little bit of a breathing tube to make sure the pregnancy continues to be viable. and she observes that the blades are put in a disposable box, and she notices that, and that gives her an idea. It's interesting to see how June smiles, almost diabolically. She really has lost herself. She waits, and in the dark, she pulls the blade, and then we fast forward to the day, and she is looking at the mother of the child, the wife who is there, and the doctor is telling her that the child's lungs are not viable, but that if they need to pull the child out, they can put him in the ICU and an incubator, and that is how his lungs or her lungs can grow. June has now the blade in her hands behind her back as she kneels, and she is doing a little mini mo. Who should I kill first? Let's make this count. She's thinking about the doctor, but just as she's doing the mini mo little game in her head, in walks Serena, and that is Mo. And as the doctors leave, Serena is left with one of the wives. June calls Serena, says, Serena, can I talk to you? It's a secret. And, you know, Serena and June ended in very bad terms in their last encounter on DC, but Serena has a soft spot for June. It's undeniable. It's very obvious in this episode. And of course, June is visibly upset, is visibly not well. When Serena approaches June, she can see it. June can barely stand on her feet. She's very unsteady. She tells her, June, you're not well. June looks at her and says, no, I'm not. As Serena tries to help her steady herself, June pulls out the blade, tries to attack Serena, cuts her. In the process, cuts herself. Serena fights her off, knocking the blade off her hand. And then Serena says, you were supposed to be one of the strong ones. But even the strong ones have a breaking point, and that is what's happening with June. And many of us have been quite unfair with June. The last episodes, we've criticized her. We've said, what's going on with her? She's gotten selfish. But we, again, should never forget that even the strongest person in the face of trauma, repeated trauma and abuse, can break. And it is very apparent in this episode, if it had not been apparent to us in the last 3 episodes, that June has really lost it. And so Serena goes out. June is against the wall. She knows that she is going to be hung. She knows that she's going to be reported. This is going to be the end of her. But then the doctor comes in, examines her hands, tells her he's going to patch her up. June basically says, you shouldn't do this if you're going to report me. He says, I swore when I became a doctor that I would do no harm. And then they strike a conversation. And June is trying to convince this doctor that Natalie is his patient and that they're not doing anything for her. The doctor says, she's not my patient, the child is. I think Gilead and the show in particular make a lot of emphasis on how babies have become kind of an idol, an end, and that nothing else matters. And though as a pastor, I value the life of a baby from the moment that he or she is conceived in the womb of a mother, at no time does God intend for us to discard the mother as just a vessel or someone that doesn't matter. Women matter, but not in Gilead. And so the doctor and June are having this conversation. She tells him, after he tells her about his promise as a Galeen when he was being sworn into the profession, she tells him that her mother was a doctor. She identifies her, tells him where she was practicing, and the doctor smiles and says, well, now I know why you took a swipe at Serena. Your mother is very scary. So like mother, like daughter. And although Holly, when in the pre-Gilead, wasn't sure that June was strong enough to care about anything other than being a mom and a wife and an editor, June very, very soon is going to show that she has the same strength and power, if not more, than her mom, brewed in the furnace of affliction that Gilead has inflicted on her. Well, it's obvious by the remarks of the doctor that he knows what June has done, and that if he wasn't a doctor, he would probably report her. I imagine that doctor, like many other professionals that have not been enslaved, are just counting their blessings that they can stay alive and relatively have a good life in the midst of this terrible and brutal theocracy that Gilead is. And so he's going through the motions and doing his job, but in his heart of hearts, he knows that what's going on with June and all the handmaids and the society in general, it's unfair, and that is why he chooses not to report her. And that is credible for me, within the constraints of him being a doctor and having a soft heart for the pain of others. I think that is completely understandable. And so the baby, June attempts, I skipped the fact that prior to trying to kill people in the morning, June in the evening is going to end of Matthew's life and Natalie's life. And the show makes it very confusing. It is not clear, and maybe there is a lot of confusion in June, if she wants to kill off Matthew because she wants to jeopardize the birth of the baby, or if she wants to kill her because she wants to get her out of her agony. One would say, after the conversation that she has with the doctor, that she is feeling of Matthew, that she is feeling for Natalie, and that she would like Natalie to stop suffering. One would argue too that Natalie is not suffering because she's in some sort of coma. But June feels that nothing is being done for her. Now, as June is getting ready to cut Natalie's throat in the evening before she attempts against Serena, in shows Janine, and Janine basically discourages her from doing that. Janine is feeling guilty from what happened to Matthew. June tries to manipulate her and saying, we need to do this, we need to get off Matthew of this agony. I think that June wants to upset the system by killing off Matthew, and in so doing killing the baby. But Janine says the baby has done nothing to you, and that takes us back to Janine's innocence or complete sense of denial, not too different from of Matthew/Natalie, where she actually thinks that protecting a baby, no matter what, is what matters, when in reality the baby is going to be brought into a terrible world where he is going to either be oppressed or become an oppressor. Of course, I am not vouching for killing a baby, and that I don't want to say that, but it is very obvious that Janine wants to protect the life of the baby at all costs, and she dissuades June from killing Natalie. But when she asks June to give her the blade, June refuses, and then Janine says what we are all have been thinking about June in the last episodes, and that is, you've changed. You only care about yourself. You only care about your problems. Well, Janine, that's about to change. June is going to turn around. Let's go back to her conversation with the doctor. Almost to the end of a conversation with the doctor says, how long have you been suicidal? June says homicidal. The doctor says, if you kill someone, if you do what you were planning to do, you would end up on the wall, so you are suicidal. June says, I don't know how long I've been like this, maybe since I realized that I will never see my daughters. June has lost hope, and this statement allows us into her psyche. And because June has lost hope, and because she thinks that her daughters are out of reach, little by little we see June moving from this state of complete hopelessness to this place of anger where she wants to do something, even if it's not going to have an impact, a direct impact on her life or the lives of her daughters. And so they pull the baby out at some point. The baby is alive. They they pump the baby's little nose out. The baby's alive. We see the baby leave. They say, praise be. And June finally gets to walk out. She takes a deep breath, and then all of a sudden it dawns on her that she needs to do something else, and she tells on Lydia before she jumps into the trunk, I want to go back. I want to be there for Matthew. Of course, that touches the heart of Lydia, who is a monster, but gets touched by these things, and she allows June to go back. They also caught into a scene now between Lydia and Janine, and Lydia is checking on Janine and is asking her how she feels, and then she says, I brought you something because there's nothing wrong in trying to look our best. And it is a red matching eye patch that matches Janine's uniform of servitude. And Janine, in her typical naivete, says, I look like a pirate. Thanks, her. And Lydia laughs and says, indeed. And they both laugh. Like if we had forgotten that the reason Janine doesn't have an eye is because Aunt Lydia had it pulled out, because Janine swore at her when she was first brought to the center. And so it's amazing how, the dysfunctionality of Gilead has become so normal for Janine. There's no way out, right? And because there's no way out, they get to laugh about how she looks like a pirate, and she gets to thank the same woman that is responsible for her eye being poked out. She thanks her for getting her a pirate's eye patch. It's very sad indeed. And then we go back to June, and this is the last scene in the episode, and there's June and there's of Matthew, and June is sitting, and June basically tells her, listen, these people have taken everything away from us. They really have, and I'm sorry that I was horrible to you, and I wouldn't worry about your baby. Everybody's praying for him. He is a boy, so he isn't a girl, as at some point Natalie thought that he was going to be a girl. He's a boy. And June says, I wouldn't worry about him. He looks like a fighter, just like you. And that's a very tender moment. And then June says, but he deserves to live in a free society. He doesn't deserve to be here. And you know what? I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I am going to free him. I am going to get out as many kids as I can. In so doing, I think June is retrieving back to the part of the episode where she sees a bunch of little girls in the same uniform that Hannah is wearing. And they're talking about how the girls are being examined to verify that they're progressing well until they're ready to become mothers. And June says they're not talking about them being emotionally ready. They're talking about being physically ready. And June says that's going to be Hannah in a few years. Before June goes back to talk to of Matthew, there's one of those little girls that offers to help June with her bag. As she's helping June with her bag, June asks her what she's doing there. The little girl says, oh, I'm being examined for when I become a mom, but that's not going to happen until I get married. June asks the little girl, is that what you want to do? And she says, more than anything. So June can see how this little girl, who is barely 11 or 12 years old, is already being brainwashed that her only role in life is to become a mother as soon as she is able to carry a baby. And it is those thoughts, those images, the possibility that at least Hannah, or Agnes as Gilead calls her, will end up in just a few years in the same manner, that motivates June to believe that she needs to do something for the children of Gilead. Even if she cannot see her daughters again, she needs to do something. And I believe this is the moment where we can justify the title of the episode to heroic. June has finally, at the end of this chapter, received the hero's call, and she is taking a step forward. She is working her way out of a pit of complete despair to do something to change things. She doesn't know yet how she's going to do it, but she's going to do it. We know that June is not the best planner. We've seen that very clearly. But I think what she doesn't have in ability to plan, she has it in her passion and her desire, who have finally come back to her. I think there's a fire brewing in June's heart, her thoughts and her emotions, and I think we are going to see a lot of changes from now on that are going to really make of June what we've been waiting to happen, which is becoming that hero, that leader of the resistance that once and for all brings down Gilead. And we are waiting for that to happen. I cannot tell you enough how the people of Gilead, all the Bible verses, all the comments, blessed be, may the Lord open, all the Bible verses that are quoted throughout this episode remind me of a passage in the Bible that says, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are away from me. We cannot fool God. And the people of Gilead are not fooling God. They may try to hide their atrocities under the Bible, and they may try to sound pious, but they sure are not fooling God, and they sure are not fooling those that they are victimizing. And so we leave this episode with the certainty that something is brewing, something powerful is going to happen, and June is climbing out of the pit of despair, and something is going to happen. She's going to make something happen. She is going to become finally the heroine that we are looking for. She may not believe that she's ever going to see her daughters, but if she has to die in the process, she will. She is now ready to do something about this situation. I can hardly wait for our next episode. Make sure to leave your comments, subscribe, and share with others if you like this review recap. Thank you very much, and I'll see you again. Don't forget, I am going to be doing more thematic reviews, and I can't wait to share my thoughts with you. Next will be the positions, the different positions and roles of women in Gilead. I love you very much. This is Pastor Jenny signing off. Take care, and let me hear your comments. Bye.